Hello, I'm Jake Berger, and welcome to the countdown of my favorite temples from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is perhaps the most unique and most polarizing entry in the series, with a greater focus on side quests and ancillary story elements and less emphasis on the main storyline, along with a more unsettling atmosphere, increased difficulty, and a freaking homicidal moon constantly overlooking your demise. Majora's Mask was often overlooked by the more casual fans. But among the more hardcore crowd, this game is heralded as one of the greatest Zelda titles in the franchise. And part of the reason for that is because the dungeons were so well designed. Although few in number, Majora's Mask offered fans some of the most intricately detailed and atmospherically intriguing temple designs in the series. So, let's take a look and work our way up from the bottom to the top in this week's countdown. Number 4. The Great Bay Temple. Ugh. Of course, the seemingly obligatory and infuriating water temple sits at the bottom of my list. You're tasked with opening numerous valves that are part of an extremely complex network of pipes, some of which are required to manipulate the flow of the water current, subsequently allowing for passage to different areas within the temple. If you thought that raising and lowering the water level within Ocarina's water temple was bad, well, this actually isn't nearly as bad. Still, it's not exactly fun, especially when you have only 3 days to save the world. But if you're lucky enough to maneuver past a series of pipes, you'll encounter some fairly typical puzzles involving, well, more pipes. But hey, at least you get to use the ice arrows to freeze the water to reach new destinations after taking out this bubbly eye thing. Oh, and was I the only one who tried to detach every bubble from its body before taking it out? Okay, so you finally reach the boss's entrance and are approached by a giant fish named GYORG. Okay. Well, George is more formidable than his name would have you believe. He spontaneously self-fornicates, apparently from all the excitement of someone actually entering his lair for what is presumably the first time ever, and immediately shoots out a load of flesh-eating mini-Georges who attempt to kill you. And it is hard as hell. But hey, after you massacre him and his newfound family, Link decides that's not enough and removes his head from his body as a memento to take back for the rest of his journey. Number 3. Woodfall Temple. This introductory temple found deep within the southern swamp of the Woodfall region is simple, short, but still very well designed. A forest-like environment surrounds Link as he navigates through rooms full of conventional block puzzles, torches that need to be lit, and Deku plants that can be used to travel far distances. Again, it's all pretty easy, but the gameplay and the eerie presentation serves as an appetizer for the ingenious puzzle designs and inventive locales later to come. Later, after defeating Denalfos, one of 3 mini-bosses, you retrieve the hero's bow, the most useful item in the game, as it can later hold a variety of bows that serve unique functions. But here, you'll simply equip your bow to take out enemies or hit obscure switches. And once you make your way through the dungeon, you face off against masked jungle warrior ODOLWA, arguably the greatest first temple boss in any Zelda game. Still, his incessant chanting and massive great sword conceals his true lack of firepower and defense. Able to be taken out in mere seconds, ODOLWA is no match for our young hero. Number 2. Snowhead Temple. The second dungeon in the game is just a mammoth of a temple, a major step up in difficulty, length, and overall creativity when compared to Woodfall Temple. Found in the Arctic northernmost zone of Snowhead Mountain, Snowhead Temple is comprised primarily of glacial structures replete with icy surfaces and snowy enemies. However, while the puzzles and enemies found within are diverse and well designed, the general infrastructure of the interior lacks imagination. Aside from the temple's main chamber, which houses a giant cylindrical block of ice that can be raised and lowered as you progress, the rest of the dungeon lacks much of the flavor that epitomize most Zelda landmarks. Still, even as you advance through each puzzle, room by somewhat mundane room, puzzles do require the use of both Goron and Deku Link, and as a result, the puzzle design is rarely monotonous. But what makes this number 2 on my list is, you guessed it, the boss fight, which is hands down the most fun in the game. The masked mechanical goat, aptly named GOHT. Okay, Majora's Mask is a really creative game, but GOHT? Really? That's even worse than George the Giant Fish. Regardless, rolling around as Goron Link while you try to bump into the Mecha Goat while simultaneously avoiding his lasers and boulders churned from the ground makes for one of the most amazing boss fights you'll ever encounter. But even with the best boss battle in the game, this temple's got nothing on... Number 1. Stone Tower Temple. Stone Tower Temple sits the Iron Throne of this short list. Okay, maybe not so surprising, but seriously, who doesn't love this final temple? Stone Tower serves as a final trial for your skills and puts them all to the test in a series of increasingly well-designed rooms that will exhaust all options at your disposal. Playing the Elegy of Emptiness will construct hollow, immobile forms of the various souls you've managed to amass throughout your journey, providing a nice callback to all the great moments you had prior to completing this temple. You'll also be forced to employ your skills as Zora Link, Goron Link, and Deku Link in multiple sections to advance forward. The gameplay is stellar as it is diverse, engaging, and fun. The atmosphere is amazing here as well. Stone Tower is actually fairly peaceful. A mixture of elements including water, fire, desert, and even sky formulate the interior, aptly complementing the vast assortment of gameplay opportunities. Moreover, midway through the dungeon, you'll encounter the Garrow Master, whose defeat grants you light arrows. So, what do you do with them? Well, you go back to the entrance of the temple, fire said light arrow on the red emblem fastened to the wall, and lo and behold, the temple turns upside down. Stone Tower was architecturally designed to be playable in an inverted state, essentially transforming itself into a different stage entirely, flush with new puzzles and areas full of secrets that could only be gazed at previously. The ceiling now being the floor affords the developers new opportunities to innovate, and ultimately, the dungeon's second half is even more inventive than the first. Finally, once you obtain the Giant's Mask after defeating a giant Igor, you're ready to take on TWINMOLD, an admittedly underwhelming boss that is also insanely hard. That is, unless you have additional magic. But once you finally take out the Mold Brothers and complete this beautiful temple, you can sit back, relax, and wait. Actually, it's off to the moon to save the world once and for all. I'll see you all when I'm the hero of Termina. Okay, there you have it. My top 4 dungeons from Majora's Mask. Although small in number, the temples themselves were anything but. Big in heart, grand in design, atmospheric in, well, atmosphere. Ultimately, the dungeons in Majora's Mask made up for the lack of quantity with quality, providing the gamer with an unforgettably dark, exciting, and often trying journey through Termina's varied landscapes. Now, together, let's try to save Termina and see if we're met with a terrible fate after all. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jake Berger. I hope you all enjoyed this week's countdown. Sound off in the comments below, letting me know if you agree or disagree with my analyses, and feel welcome to present your own countdown. So tune in next week for the ranking of my favorite temples in the legendary Ocarina of Time. Until then, I'm out.